Good morning, everyone. Happy Friday. I'm back with Weekdays with Shane. I know we missed yesterday. My schedule just was not, it didn't fit. So like I said, I'm trying my best every day to get it. It's Friday here in my office. It's bright and early. I've already had a cup of coffee, and I feel good. Um, it's 10 a.m. and we're going to talk about the flood today. First, it's Friday, so happy Friday, everyone. Office LeBron over here, he's excited about Friday. He's getting ready to dunk on Friday. And so we're excited. It's Friday. We got exciting things. Hey, if you're part of Real Life Student Ministry, we're going to the Laser Craze tomorrow. So remember to sign your form online and be here at 2 so we can roll out. And we're going to Red Robin for dinner on the way home. But we're going to talk about the flood. We're talking about the biblical flood, Noah. And we're going to talk about some things. Listen, if you know me and you've talked to me about the flood, you know that I think it's hilarious and a bit ridiculous that we paint the picture of Noah's Ark in the nurseries and in kids' ministry areas and all these places because it was a worldwide event where the world was so wicked, God wanted to kill everyone, but he saved Noah and his family. So we should paint that in the nursery. Why don't we paint Sodom and Gomorrah in nurseries? Other things like this, but the flood. So I'm going to jump into it. It's in Genesis. Genesis 5, we get kind of the descendants from Adam to Noah. And then Genesis 6, it starts talking about the flood more. So Noah is deemed as the person God's going to save. And what's interesting is it talks about Noah was a righteous man and blameless in his generation, but doesn't say anything about the rest of his family being inherently righteous or such great followers of God that God wanted to save his whole family. It talks about Noah was, and his family kind of came along with that to repopulate the earth post-flood. So we get to this time in world history where the earth is so bad. It says every thought of man was evil. Every thought. Now we think we're in bad times now. We always, since I've been alive, I was born way back in 1991, eons ago for some of you guys, in the 90s, when, you still had house phones. No one had cell phones back in those days. When I was born, man, since as long as I can remember, it's always been talked about how awful the world is and Jesus is going to be back any day now and all these things. And probably if we look throughout church history, everyone has said that, right? Or it's always on the brink of God coming back, the world being so bad, all these things. But if you look in Genesis, this chapter in Genesis, chapter 6, it really was bad. And I don't think we've ever seen a time as wicked as this time that God said, you know what, I'm going to destroy the whole earth, right? I got to start over from scratch. This is bad. Man is so wicked. Now, if you've watched the recent movie about the flood, Noah, whatever it was called, you kind of get a sense of it seemed pretty bad, but it says that every thought of man was wicked. And so this evilness on the earth, God says, hey, it's going to flood. It's going to rain. Now, one of the reasons people thought this was crazy is because they'd never really experienced a weather phenomenon like this. There had never been a time where it rained so bad. We don't even actually really know if it had rained that much. If you look in the garden, it talks about it not raining. So people disagree on that subject, but I'm not going to argue that today. But they didn't think that this could happen. Right. It's like when I grew up in the South and they said it was going to snow. And it was like, okay, yeah, sure. And then it did it and no one knew what to do. And, just the entire state of Georgia would shut down. Right. And so people just didn't know how to handle it. Or when it gets hot here in Ohio, people are like, what do we do? Air conditioning. You all need air conditioning. And so they didn't know that this could even happen, that there could really be this type of rain, this type of weather phenomenon. And so when it starts to happen, they realize, oh, crap, Noah was right. I got to get on that boat with him. And too late, doors closed, animals are on. Now, this is also a good time to talk about dinosaurs, right? I get that question from our teens a lot. Were dinosaurs real? I believe that they were. Some Christians believe that dinosaur fossils are faked, that people fake them. I don't understand why people think there's a conspiracy about dinosaurs so much that people would fake dinosaurs, but whatever. But I think they were. We know that in this story, God tells Noah to build an ark, right? If you grew up, God told Noah to build an arky. And so he builds this ark, and God supernaturally instructs the animals 2 by 2, some 2 by 2, clean animals that would have been respected by God. They actually talked about sending 7 of them. And so he builds this ark. God supernaturally sends animals there. Now, God also had the power to supernaturally not send certain animals, I don't know, like a giant T-Rex, to the ark, right? And so I think this is where we get this idea of dinosaurs, right? The fossils that we see, how fossils work, there had to be some kind of supernatural, catastrophic event that caused dinosaurs to die, to be buried under the earth and become fossilized. Science talks about a meteor or comet, whatever. I think, hey, a worldwide flood kills all these dinosaurs. We get fossils. That's my belief. I'm not going to subscribe to the idea that dinosaurs weren't real. I think they were. Like I said, there's no way in my mind that I could believe that the entire scientific world has conspired to plant dinosaur fossils in the earth as some weird conspiracy theory, but I'm sure people believe it. People think the earth is flat, all that kind of thing. So why not? But I think this is where we get dinosaurs. So Noah and them, they're on the ark. It rains. Water comes up from the earth. They're on there for a long period of time. It rains for 40 days. They sit on the ark waiting for it to be dry. He sends out a dove, right? And this is the part that kind of struck me when I was reading it. In chapter 8, verse 9, Genesis chapter 8, verse 9, it says, but the dove found no place to set her foot, and she returned to him to the ark, for the waters were still on the face of the whole earth. Right? So if you can imagine being on this boat, Noah's trying to figure out, is it safe for us to get out? Is there land? All this. I'm responsible for this. It sends out this dove. The dove goes out. There's no place for the dove to land, so it comes back. And I was reading about this, and I was saying, man, one, God used this just in Genesis to show us that, Noah didn't just all of a sudden decide, all right, we're good to go. He was actually testing, right? He was making sure it was safe, as he is all of mankind at this point is on his boat, and all of the animals that need to repopulate the earth are on his boat. He's making sure it's safe for them to go out. And so he sends out this dove. And so he brings this dove back onto the ark. He waits 7 days, does it again, and the dove comes back in her mouth with a freshly plucked olive leaf. And Noah knew that the water had subsided. So he knew the water had subsided, but he's waiting for something specific. Right? The dove went out, came back with a leaf, but still came back to the boat. Right? It still wasn't sure that it was ready for it to be on its own. And so then we see that he waited another 7 days, sent out the dove, and she didn't return to him anymore. Right? Then Noah knows. All right, the first time I sent out the dove, it comes back because there's nowhere for it to land. The second time it comes back with a leaf telling me that the stuff's starting to grow again, right? That the world is kind of getting prepped. Earth is being a little more prepped. Stuff's starting to dry. Growth is starting to happen again. The third time he sends it out, it doesn't come back. Why? Because it doesn't need the ark anymore. It can now live on the earth. So it's time to open up the door, time to repopulate the earth. All right. I thought about this kind of from our perspective. How often do we start to think as man, I know what I need to do. All right. I know the next step in my life. I know what I'm going to go do. So I'm going to go leave the ark, even though there's nowhere for me to land. Right. The earth's still covered in water. I'm going to go out and try to just survive in this water, try to tread water and make it. And what ends up happening? We don't. Right. God was telling Noah to wait. You got to wait till the time is right to go and do what I have planned for you. Right? Noah could have, when that dove came back with the olive leaf, the olive branch, could have just, all right, we're good. There's stuff growing. Open the door, everyone out. But it wasn't the right time. It wasn't the time yet for them to go out, to enter into this next step of the journey of repopulating the earth, of living a life following after God. Right? How often, though, do we see the olive branch and take off? Like, oh, this is what God wants. We don't wait patiently. We don't try to follow what God has in store for us. We just take off, right? And so that's just reading through this. That's kind of what stuck out to me. Hey, sometimes we got to be patient, right? We may think we know, but we don't. We got to be patient. And so I want to encourage you guys, be patient, all right? Follow God, his leading in your life. Don't just go after what looks great. All right, don't just chase the next shiny thing, but be patient and go when God is instructing you to go and when you know it's time to follow God. All right. This was Friday edition of Weekdays with Shane. Hey, thanks for watching with us. This is going to go up on YouTube here in a few minutes. I want to thank Office LeBron for hanging out with us today. I'm still trying to get used to like directional Office LeBron. What's up, man? In my mind, LeBron's still a Cav. So thanks for watching us today. I'll see you guys on Monday.